Hi, John Hall, Blues Creek Guitars. Glenn is behind the camera, as always. I want to thank you for your support. You can find us at bluescreekguitars.com and also on the Kick Guitar Forum, where we have a lot of people that are generous with their knowledge, and Tommy LaMotta is our administrator and does a wonderful job for me. So anyway, here's what we're doing today. We're actually going to show you how to glue up a body. Now, in the old days, we just used to put pencil marks down, glue up, and go. Well, I've developed a halo system. Now, the halo system is this. When I go to glue my braces on, I can actually set this up, center it onto my back, and you can see my braces drop right into this halo. Now, this gives me very precise control of where I am putting my braces. So if you take notice, I locate everything off of the front neck side point. I can do modern and I can do vintage style braces with this halo. But here is where this comes out to be a big help. How many of you have put a guitar on and you found that the back was not where it needed to be? Things got crooked. Or you had a very difficult time getting all of your notches right. This is where this will save you a lot of time. If you're going to get into the business of lutherie and you want to make a saleable product, you need to be able to control your process and be very precise, and this will do that. Now you can see I have tape on here for a reason. When I take this up and I lay this over here, I know that the tape side is going to be my downside to the rim. So now I can take the tape off and I can put it on the top. This rim has an inside and an outside mark. The outside mark is the shape of the actual guitar. So now I can set this up onto center. As you can see, that's the actual shape of the guitar. So I just put the tape here. This is that's the critical part right here. That's going to be the outside rim. I'm not worried about down here, I'm worried about up here. So this is all fall down here. I have my center points marked up on I can see down into my mold, so I know where my center point is. And right there is where I want that to be. Right there is where I want that to be. And boom. Now I can tape this down. Now, by taping this on, my block, I'm locking this pretty much into its position so that I know my neck and tail block are where they need to be. So let me highlight for you. We actually did screw in this neck block to work with the spreader. That assures this is not going to move. You want to be critical of your geometry of the body. You also want to check this. Well, if you put your rim on its edge and you look at the points of the upper and lower bout, you want to see these two upper and lower bouts parallel. So I'm kind of eyeballing and I can see they're there. And I'll flip to the other side and again I can see that they are parallel. The reason why I'm saying that is sometimes you may not get the mold. Things won't set in right. Your side set might be too short or might be too long, and then what can happen is those parts right here, here and here, can be off parallel to each other. I don't think this one is off parallel, but I can tell you that if you watch this line and this line, that should be flat. So if you put a guitar on here, and you can see it does rock a little bit. This is an old guitar. This was done a long time ago by a good friend of mine. And here, before we understood the importance of checking that, if you look at this line, you can see that those pencils are just a little bit off parallel. So, after that had happened, we had learned that you have to be careful when you set up the rim, that you double check for that, because once you glue the neck and tail blocks in, that's what you're going to have. So now, the halo is in position. We've checked to make sure everything is lined up properly. So now, I know exactly where my braces belong, and here's the kicker. Now I can put pieces of tape, and I know where I want to trim my braces. So instead of having to really fuss and really, this used to drive me crazy, getting this to be so nice and neat. Now I also, when I set my braces up, I don't want my braces to be tight against the rim. I want to leave about a 1/16 of an inch gap. And that is by design for two reasons. Number one, braces are not going to get longer or shorter with humidity. But if you tap the side, you bump this. And that brace is right against the side. You tap it, you run the risk of a crack. Just kind of pre-planning here a little bit. So now I know exactly where this is belonging. And I'm very happy with the positions. So now I can take my pencil. So now I can now mark my positions. Now I might want to explain this to you too. To get the most accurate marking, I actually make my pencil almost like a knife. So I can get tight against my position. Right? So when I go in there, if you have a bad pencil mark, your positions won't be AHT, and I think you know what AHT means. So I want things to be very neat and very precise. Now, these positions back here, because that's actually set open wider, I can take a dial caliper. Ooh, sorry, Zimmy. So now, I can measure, just take that right there, and I can go right here and I can make my mark where that line's going, and here. Then I can also do the same down here. Now this is very, very, very tight, so when I make my marks and open these slots, I will allow a little bit. I'll actually take the pencil line, which will give me probably about a 30 thousandths drop off. So now I can pick this up, and what I'm going to also do again, before I move this off, I can put a pencil line here, I can put a pencil line there, and I can mark my centers. I will tell you actually what will happen when I put this on here, because all of these 4 points are going to have me locked in. I'll be right on my mark. So, flip this over, and I have a mark on here already. I put a pencil mark, so I know where my 14th fret position is. And I had already figured out the thickness of my neck block from here to here, and my tail block from here to here. So when I go to put this on, I don't even have to bother trimming that off. I have it right where I need it to be. Now, you can see I'm on my centers. Okay? Now I can take a look at my braces and see what do I have to trim and where do I have to trim it. And right there I need to do that one. And you can actually take a look. By having this little pattern, I only have to trim this brace. And I don't have to trim it by much, maybe the 1/16 of an inch. By having this, I can save so much tedious work later. So this is the back. So, give me a few seconds, and we're going to actually notch this, and my friend behind the camera can get to hear some noise. I'm using my inlay tool, I use this quite a bit. And all I have to do is shorten this block up, and I'll put it up here so he can see it. Now when I do this, I've done this for so many years and I'm so accustomed to using this. I can do this free-handed. I don't exactly suggest everybody to do it. You might want to use the good old-fashioned razor saw and chisel. In fact, I'll do the razor saw and chisel. I got it in my hand. So boom. When I'm doing this, I'm watching the shadows. I don't want to mark the back. Okay? Voila. One chisel. Okay. And now I can pop this right off. Now if I were going to use this, I just go and I can use my two fingers here as a guide, and then I can just watch where my bit is on the top. Doesn't really matter. So this is done. All of my ends are about the same depth. And you can see that. Mr. DeMille makeup. Now I'm just going to clean this up a little bit with some sandpaper. And I like to sign all of my work, so you'll see that my name's on this guitar. And this guitar will be at John Guerin, probably at My Favorite Guitars, number 177, and I suspect it'll be there sometime June. And I just like to make everything neat and clean. I can now set the depth. Just a little bit. Alright. So you can see I have my depth set. You get that? Okay. I don't sound like I'm doing a soft shoe. Now all I'm going to do is move my coffee so I don't put sawdust in it. And I also have to carry these 2 points over. I forgot about that. So I take a ruler or a straight edge of some sort. And I carry my lines across. So, here to here. And there to there. Now if you are just starting out, I recommend that you take the pencil and put lines across. Now I also want to leave you with my opinion. I do not like to go across and cut through the sides. I've just never cared for that method. I know some people do it, and God bless you for doing it. I've missed one little point here I got to mark. That's good, that's good. Okay. I didn't mark that lower line. Okay, I don't like to go through the sides with the braces. I feel that that can lead to a stress riser for a side crack. Martin does not go through it, and I am very much a traditional Martin style builder. So now, all I'm going to do is relieve the kerfing. you saw how easy it was to make the routes. Now let's see how it fits. Now you also notice I have this on the luthier disc so that I can spin it and work it, and I don't have to stress it in any way. There we go. You can hear it rubbing in. That one needs a little touch. Oh, that was sweet. That was a boo-boo. So, we don't want to show them that. Well, let's show it to them. Quick tip. At some point, you're going to make a mistake in your kerfing layout. So you can see this side is wider than this side. So how can I fix that and make it invisible so that I don't have something that looks wrong? Well, you can see I've cleaned off this side all the way to the side. Alright? So that's cleaned off right to the side. Now I can take a piece of the kerfing that I have left over, and I'm going to make a little piece out of this. So you can see I took one piece of kerfing, I can stick it on here, and I can see how that fits. And you're going to say, aren't you going to shape this? Well, yes I am. Right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to get an idea how thick I need to make this. So I can take a chisel, cut that off, and I only need enough to go in here. So I'm now going to cut this off again and give me a little bit of room for adjustment. So I have now created a little wedge that will fit right on here. Alright? And you're going to say, well, that looks funny. Well, yeah, it does. But you're going to see what's going to happen in a few seconds. We take a look at that. We can use any number of glues. We can use fish glue, hide glue. I don't like to use super glue here because super glue might wick through the mahogany and affect the finish process later. Since we're doing a quick tip video, we're going to go get the super invincible glue. I'm just going to use good old-fashioned Titebond because it affords me a short clamp time. I'll be able to fix this in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to put a little dab of glue, okay, just a dollop. Now I can push this in here, and I'm gluing to the side, and I'm gluing to the kerf. Now while that glue is setting, I can take my sanding block, and I'm clamping this in with my finger. And will you see it? Sure you will, because you know you put it in there. The average guy won't even notice it. So now, all I'm going to do is put a spring clamp on there. Give it 10 minutes. And we'll be done. Okay, so I left the kerfing, I allowed the kerfing to glue into place. Now I'm going to level it off. Now what we want to do is get a picture of it from the side so that you can see how nice this actually looks. I'm going to clean this off. And I want to take a small piece of sandpaper. Now all I'm going to do, what I want to do is I want to sand the side of the kerfing so that any joint line gets hidden. Okay, voila, that is it. And as you can see, if you look real close, yes, you can see that there's been a repair there. But as you can see, that's now ready to go. So let's take a look and see what does this look like. So when I put the back on, I no longer need this. And I can't stress this enough. Whenever you go to put a guitar top or back on, you always want to do it in the same way. And you always see that I do the lower one and then work my way up. What I really like about this is not just how nice it fits, but how that doesn't move. And you can see, here's my center line. And you can't see the next center line so well, but trust me, it is there. Now I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to set it right down on my dish. Now Glenn is going to take some stills and you'll be able to see how nice and snug this is. Now I will point out on the #1 brace, usually when that brace rides right on the edge of the kerfing, I just cut it off because they generally end up breaking. But take a look, you can see how nice these joints fit. And how easy it was. It was very efficient. I didn't have to work a lot. It wasn't hard. You can see my parts are in there. And voila, that is how I put a back on. Now we're going to put the top on. You just saw how the back template works. Now let me show you how the front template works. And we're going to do exactly the same thing, only now we got the top. Now to help you comprehend all of the geometry that we talk about when we're doing the sides and I do all of that hocus pocus with a 28-foot dish, the reason that I do that is we want to create a neck angle. And as you can see, when I put this on here, we're dead flat up here, and you can see how the curvature is pulling that back. Now, while that might look extreme to you right now, when we get this onto the side, all of this will fall into place where it belongs. So, how and what do I do? As I said before, I'm a traditional Martin style builder, and my favorite way of doing this, as you can see, I have the tape. This is the way I had my top when I braced it. This was the back. This is just the way that I had it in the Go Bar deck when I glued everything up. So you can see everything is right in those positions. I don't have to guess where am I going to be. So now I can take my piece of tape off here. And I know that you can see over here is my tone bars. So my tone bars are going to come across to the base side. And I'm going to take this piece of tape off. And I can lay this down, and now I can be very, very precise in where things are going. This halo is set up for a dreadnought, 14 fret, 25/4 scale, forward shifted, whatever you want to call it, based on the positions of 1937. So, if I take this, and that's the way I need that to be, and I put my outer marking, and I set this all up the center, right there. That's where that needs to be. Now I take a piece of tape, tape it there, and I'll tape it here. Now that little bit of tape doesn't seem like much, but that will actually hold that down reasonably well. So I know that I am in a secured position so that when I put my neck in, I am not going to have, when the fingerboard goes on the neck, it's not going to be kicked on the rosette. Everything's going to line up. This is all part of what I'm going to call the fit and finish issues. A lot of new builders, they actually don't do a bad job, but their fit and finish is a little sloppy. This will help you tighten up your fit and finish. So we start with the pencils again. I do not set all of the braces into the kerfing. I only do the structural braces. I think we've talked about this in the past. Braces are structural, tonal, or anti-split. So let's talk about that. This is a structural brace. That's an anti-split brace. Tonal. X braces are actually both. They are structural and they are tonal. Anti-split. Yeah, they do a little bit of tonal, but they aren't. That's not their main inference. So now I'm going to put this in here, and I have all of my positions well marked. As you can see, I am only going to inlet this brace and these two. The other braces will not be set into the kerfing, but we will fade them before they get into the kerfing. Now by having this halo, again, I'm going to have nice tight joints, I'm going to have very secure position, and things are going to be where they need to be. There's no guesswork. Alright? So, I'm double checking everything. Everything looks good. And I will take the pencil lines off. I want to double check, make sure nothing moved. Scribble all my lines up. I want to make sure I'm removing what I want to remove. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Alright, and here we go. And again, I have this preset to the heights of here, which is actually a little bit lower than I do on tone on the back. And here we go. They don't work when they're not connected. And this, by the way, people had asked me about this. This is actually what I call a little bit of muffler. And if I blow water or oil, that'll catch it. now routed my holes, and I'm going to do the same thing as I did last time. I'm going to mark the ends of where my braces should be. I still haven't come up with a bracing scheme for this thing, or not a bracing, but a binding scheme for it. Alright, marked all the ends. Now you probably could, if you wanted to, you can use a Dremel tool. How you cut these out doesn't really matter. I'm just very comfortable with my inlay tool. I know where my end's got to come off. There's my center. There's my tape. So there we go. They're all marked. I'm done with this. I can put that away. But I'm sure you can understand just how easy this makes the positioning of all the bracing and to match the kerfing to the braces. The other thing that I'd like to say at this point is also, if you make a mistake, don't allow the mistake to eat you up. It's always a design enhancement possibility. The other thing that I want you to be understanding of is you have to be able to access your truss rod. So make sure your truss rod wrench is going to fit through before you glue the top down. Before you glue the neck down. You want to make sure that you can access your truss rod wrench. And you can see I put a little bit of a divot here so my truss rod wrench can fit through. So all I have to do now is cut these short, and then I'm going to fade. You can see that these have been already faded. I'm going to take them down just a little bit more. These will have to be cleaned up, and I'm going to knock down my ends now. And I usually, if you have a Dremel tool, I mean, obviously you know how to do, knock this down with a saw and a chisel. But you can take your Dremel tool, set it dead flush. In my case, I'm using my inlay tool. And I have that set dead flush. I can take a piece of wood and I can turn that on there. And you can see I'm just barely touching it. So now to trim my braces, I can ride my top people might have saw me go over there to the sander. I don't care how you do this as long as you do it and you do it consistent. I also do teach how to build guitars. I have classes. You're welcome to call me. My information's on the website. The classes will include a finished guitar. You'll be here for 1 week and the guitars get sent out to be professionally finished. And I guarantee you, you will have a nice guitar. So, as you can see, I'm just kind of cleaning up my edges a little bit. Now, will it or won't it fit? Now on the back, I always go do the back braces first. On the top, I like to do the truss rod brace. That's my first one in. And it just dropped. My X brace just dropped on that side. This side's in. My center line's perfect. That one's going to need to be cleaned up a little bit, I think. And, yep, that one. I'm a little tight on my line. I just have to open it up a little bit. I still have a pencil line here. Oops, I need to reset. And this one needs a little bit right here. Okay. Truss rod brace is number 1. First one in. Here drop. Now you can see the top is not moving very much. Alright? X brace is in, X brace is in. X brace is in. You heard the X brace go in. Now, what I want you to see is, here's my center line. There's my center line. So you can see that my center lines have now lined up. That makes putting the top on and the back almost foolproof. And it really does take the quality of your work up a notch. So, what does it look like from the inside? So let's take a look. And you notice how the back stays on? And let me clean the dirt out. Take a little bit of sandpaper. I have a little fuzzy right there, but you can take a look. Things look nice and snug. I'm going to squeeze this together. That's tight. That's tight. So there you go, Mr. You can see how easy that was. So all of my positions are where they need to be. I am actually ready. I can glue this puppy up now. So we're going to glue this up, and the way that I like to glue up a guitar, I do the back first. And when you're gluing up a guitar, you got there's a lot of variables that can happen. And the worst thing that can happen to you is if you get your body racked. Now I know there's a lot of guys that say, well, I free build. Well, I'm sure you do, and I'm sure you do well. If you've never free built before, you have a lot of variables. And the mold and these jigs help to control that part of the process. So, what am I going to do next? We're going to glue the back on. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back, lay that there. I need the 15-foot radius disc. I'll lay that there. Now we're going to glue this on. Now how are we going to glue it? Very easily. Okay, now gluing the back on is not all that difficult. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here. I'm going to flip it and put it up in here. I'm then going to take my go-bar sticks and I'm going to attach the back onto the body. So how much glue do you need? Well, most people usually do use too much. I'm going to run a nice thin bead. Now the reason why I do the back first, it's common sense in my opinion, is number one, I can clean the back up easily. And you can see the back through the sound hole. If I do the top first, then I have to try and clean this up the other way, and that can be a real pain. So in it goes. That's number 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see that there is indeed glue squeeze out. Alright, so now I'm putting a false top on here. I'm going to put foam rubber on here. Now the rubber is a protector so that if a go bar slips, it won't go through my fake top and damage anything. Plus it also works as a nice, spreads the force out nice. I made this little halo out of good old-fashioned hardboard, masonite, whatever. And what I'll do, I'm now looking at the time, it's 12 o'clock. In about 15 minutes I'll take this apart and that glue will kind of boogify so I can take the glue out very cleanly. So now all I got to do, I do the blocks first, neck and tail. And I adjusted my sticks. I have a pile of different length sticks. And this is strictly for this. And I'll put this on, and then for the sake of expediency, I'm using fish or Tite Bond here, but I will use fish glue for the top. And I am looking at Tite Bond does not dry. It's not set really quickly, so I have about a good 45 minutes to an hour that I can play with this. Fish glue also affords me a certain amount of open time. But what I'm looking at right now is to get this all locked up so that I can go in and pull the glue up. When the glue is wet and you wipe it, you smear it. If we allow it to preset, it becomes more of like a rubber kind of consistency. It's more plastic, and I can actually take a little plastic shiv, and I have all different sizes that I make, and I can get in there and literally just pull that right out, clean as a whistle. Now, I'm also looking here at glue squeeze out, and I see that I have a little bit. I don't have a flood, I don't want a flood, but I do have a nice bit of glue squeeze out. So at this point, we'll see you in about 10 minutes. Okay, so we've had about 15-20 minutes lapse, and the glue has become semi-cured. I like to call it boogified. And it becomes less liquid, and we can roll it out instead of smearing it. That smearing just gives you a lot more cleanup work later. Now the reason why I like to use the go bar deck on the plate is because now I can very much control the racking. The body is not going to rack. Now, so I have warm water, and I have just a little piece of plastic with a cutting edge on it, and I can just smear this off and I'll take a paper towel and I like cut underneath it, and then I scrape it, and then I can go in here with a paper towel and wipe out the excess. Now, one thing about Tite Bond is what we call a curative glue. It's not a water drying glue, although water is one of the main ingredients. You'll never reactivate Tite Bond once it cures. So you have 24 hours if you need to take a joint apart without being too worried about it. And we have a nice little bit of glue, squeeze out here and there. And that's what you want to see. You don't want to see a flood, but you do want to see a little bit of squeeze out. Also, you're going to find that what you see in squeeze out today won't really be as bad as tomorrow, because it will shrink. So if you can get this cleaned up pretty nice, you'll have part one of this problem licked. Now the next part that I'm going to do, I just started using the screwed in neck block, and I do like how that keeps things nice and tight and square. Okay. It's not bad. So, now I can clean all of my corners up. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do, we're going to glue the top on. And I'm not going to use the Gold Bar deck. Now, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. So I need to get okay, now we're going to glue the top on. I have my clamps staged right here. I need a screwdriver. Although I don't think it's going to be important. I want to take the screw out while it is still in the mold. Now I told you I'm going to put the top on with the fish glue. The reason being for me is that I prefer the animal glues. They dry a lot harder, and fish glue dries very hard. So I think it helps to eliminate dampening effects. Now the fish glue, what I like about fish glue, unlike hot high glue, I don't need to get into the hot pot and mixing and stirring. I never found the smell of hot high glue really terribly offensive, and fish glue, believe it or not, does not smell all that bad. Doesn't smell bad at all. You've been around fish glue probably your whole life and never realized that it's used on envelopes when you lick your envelope. Now, how am I going to do this? I'm going to do it just like I did in the back. I'm going to run what I call like a pencil bead right around the top. You see that? And we have a certain amount of work time. Now also I would like to mention at this point the new Martin neck block. Martin changed the neck block in 1939 from 1 9/16 to 1 3/8. After that time they also had some issues with top failure, and they assumed that it was because of the change in the neck block size. And I have to agree with John Arnold. He thinks that more of the tops failed because of an inconsistent expansion and contraction between the spruce and the ebony, and I tend to believe that. A lot of these builders are no longer using a popsicle brace, but they're using what they call a trapezoidal brace. I'll show you that in a future video. So all I'm doing now is just smearing my glue out, as you can see. Alright, I don't care if it runs on the outside of the body. In fact, I'd prefer it to. Now, as soon as I get this clamped up, you're going to see me turn this upside down because I can't get in and clean up that joint like I would like to. So I'm going to let gravity do it for me and keep the glue on the top. So there we have, the glue is smeared. Remember I told you I always go by a truss rod brace first. And I try not to get too sloppy. You want this to drop on there nice and neat. Alright? That's in. That's in. That's in. And you notice I'm still on my 15-foot dish. Okay. My center lines are exactly where I want them to be. So now I'm going to start the clamping up process. You can use cam clamps, you can use bar clamps. I'm not a big fan of the rubber band method. I don't think that that is actually very good. The better your joint is, though, the more success you can possibly get from it. So I'm going to put this in here, right there. If I can lock the blocks, the body's not going to change shape. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I am locking my neck block up. The braces are going to carry the positioning. And what I'm being very cognizant of is that I'm keeping the clamp in line with the side. I am not getting them inside the back. I want everything to be nice and on the side. I am now done with my spreader. And whatever you build to go in the guitar, remember it has to come out through the sound hole. Voila. Now, very carefully, the mold is removed. And what I have to do here, this is actually done in like 2 stages. I'll open this side up. Now I can put my second neck block clamp on. Okay. That affords me to loosen this one up. Uh-oh. I'm checking my side. That looks pretty good. I can let that go. Done, done. So now, I can double check all of that. That looks beautiful. And now, looks good. Nice and perfect. I'll explain what happened on the video. Okay, now 1, 2, 3. And yes, you can do this in a go bar deck. I just want to show you other ways of doing it. Okay. What I'm doing now is I'm just clamping along the edges, and I want to make sure everything is secure. Now I'm not squeezing this down real tight and hard, but I did have a little issue with myself when I took it out of the mold and I allowed this to spring, but I can rely on the bracing position to make sure that the shape is where it belongs. So now I can take this back and use that clamp. Things happen, and I'm just going along the edges. What I will do shortly, once I get this all done, is I'm going to put a flashlight inside to make sure my joint's tight. Now you may not be able to see this, but I can see a little bit of squeeze out as I'm going around the guitar. So I'm done with this, and I'm done with this. I can get them out of the way. I love when I can see that little bit of squeeze out. And I do use a lot of clamps. Cam clamps are fine for this job. I saw somebody has a wire spring. It's like a C, shaped like a C, but it's a wire compression spring clamp. Those look pretty neat. I like them because it'd be light, not a lot of weight. Okay, now in order to check that my joints are tight, I still can put more clamps on here. I'm going to turn the lights out. Except for the floodlight. And I have a little flashlight. And now I can reach up through the sound hole and I can look. And it is going to be normal to see possible little light between the kerfing marks. But this will tell you where you are loose. And I can tell you right now, this is very nice, very even, and I'm very happy with it, but I will put more clamps on. to do that. And honest to God, I wasn't drinking. Maybe we should start. Okay. Alright, so the rest of this is going to be clamped up. And that's how you do it.